Hello, welcome. We're going to do a video lecture this time based on a PowerPoint that I put together to explain to you literature and close reading. The close reading we've done so far, our application of propinquity in this class, has been towards nonfiction, well, mostly nonfiction articles. We've had editorials, we've had op-eds, TED Talks, speeches, print advertisements. We've even had stand-up comedy, and we've applied close reading and analysis to that. Now we're going to segue over into fiction and see how that works with regards to close reading. Again, there are no misconceptions about close reading. It's really straightforward. It's not mystical. It's not obscure, even though you're dealing with fiction. It doesn't require any special glasses. It's not speculative, and it's not bull crapping. Or another way of putting it, it's not a bunch of rubbish. You're not making it up and trying to impress your reader with big vocabulary words and gorgeous sentence structure and length. It's not fancy, it's not pretentious, it's not abstract. You don't need a PhD in order to do close reading and analysis of literature. Instead, all it really is understanding what it is you're reading, noticing what you're reading, being able to explain what you've read, and once you can do those three steps, now you're ready to do analysis. So how are we going to look at that? We're going to take a look at three pieces, very short pieces of fiction. That'll give us a basis upon which we will then be able to move forward to the stories that you're going to be looking at in order to form your own analysis. First, we're going to look at a very, very short story. It's less than a page long. It's called Hidden Teacher. It's by Loren Eisley. Then we have two poems that we're going to be looking at, and they're both from the 19th century. And one's called Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley, and the other one's called On a Stupendous Leg of Granite by Horace Smith. The Hidden Teacher, the first piece that we're looking at, you've got a link, a download that you can print out and look at, but it's also right here on the PowerPoint, so let's just look at it here. I'm going to read it to you first, and then we're going to look at it step by step and see how close reading works with fiction. I once received an unexpected lesson from a spider. It happened far away on a rainy morning in the West. I had come up a long gulch looking for fossils, and there, just at eye level, lurked a huge yellow and black oared spider, whose web was moored to the tall spears of buffalo grass at the edge of the arroyo. It was her universe, and her senses did not extend beyond the lines and spokes of the great wheel that she inhabited. Her extended claws could feel every vibration throughout the delicate structure. She knew the tug of wind, the fall of a raindrop, the flutter of a trapped moth's wing. Down one spoke of the web ran a stout ribbon of gossamer on which she could hurry out to investigate her prey. Curious, I took a pencil from my pocket and touched a strand of the web. Immediately there was a response. The web, plucked by its menacing occupant, began to vibrate until it was a blur. Anything that had brushed claw or wing against that amazing snare would be thoroughly entrapped. As the vibration slowed, I could see the owner fingering her guidelines for sign of struggle. A pencil point was an intrusion into her universe, for which no precedent existed. Spider was circumscribed by spider ideas. Its universe was spider universe. All outside was irrational, extraneous, at best raw material for spider. As I proceeded on my way along the gully, like a vast, impossible shadow, I realized that in the world of spider, I did not exist. Okay, very short. Let's look and see what Loren Eisley is really saying in this passage. First sentence, I once received an unexpected lesson from a spider. Okay, we know two things that are happening. We know more than two things. First, the narrator is I. Loren Eisley is the author. The narrator we'll just call the narrator. This narrator received a lesson, so that we know by the time we get to the end of this thing, there's going to be some sort of a lesson communicated to us, and primarily from the protagonist, I suppose, in this piece, which is the spider. So we've got the narrator, these are our characters, and we've got the spider, and a lesson's going to be communicated. So where did this happen? We need a setting. That's where fiction takes place, a world. It happened far away. Where's far away? Far away from what? Far away is a very abstract thing, and it sets a tone for this piece. Far away gives us a legend, ideal, a myth. It's a story. In fact, the concept of story is indicated in the second word here. I once. Not I received an unexpected lesson, I once received an unexpected lesson. By saying once, we're already connecting to the adage once upon a time, which gives us again this legend or this mythological proportion. It's a big story. It happened far away, an abstractness, which gives it a storytelling atmosphere, on a rainy morning. So we've got a mist, raininess, a gray, a dullness that's embedded over the story in the West. Where's the West? West of what? What does West connotate? Well, if you're in America, the West typically connotates, especially when this was written, adventure, journey, manifest destiny, moving westward, young man, in order to explore. It's an exploration. I had come up a long gulch looking for fossils. A gulch is like a small little ravine, an indentation in the ground, looking for fossils. So we're dealing with a scientist here, or somebody who has a scientific bent. And fossils, again, is something from so long ago, and it provides us with remnants of ancient things that aren't there anymore, dead things. And there, just at eye level, lurked a huge yellow and black orb spider. Orb is a round shape. Yellow and black is probably something more menacing than friendly, and it's huge and it's lurking. So this spider, the author has given us these adjectives that describe it as something that's ominous, whose web, which is what a spider lives on, yes, was moored to the tall spears of buffalo grass. Again, this is something that's in the landscape. It's part of the wild of the West. At the edge of the arroyo, again, it's a connotation of a river that flows and runs through landscape land. It's not a city, it's not even a town, we're in the wilderness. Now this web we're talking about is her universe. Her senses, the spider's senses, don't extend beyond the lines and the spokes of that great wheel she inhabited. A great wheel sort of connotates this vastness of universe. It's a wheel, it's a roundness, a circularness through which there's a hub at the center and spokes that run out, very similar to a web. So we've got that analogy, this metaphor, that we have this image in our minds, and a parallel between the web and the universe that we live in. Her extended claws could feel every vibration throughout that delicate structure. She knew the tug of wind. So what Eisley is doing here is personifying, giving the spider human-like characteristics by giving her the capacity for knowledge. She knows the tug of wind. She knows the fall of a raindrop, the flutter of a trapped moth's wing. So he's leading us here into the experiences and the life of a spider. These are the things that are in her web, her universe. The trapped moth's wing is what her web will do in order for her to capture food. And she knows those things because they're survivor things. Down one spoke of the web ran a stout ribbon of gossamer. Now, if you don't know what gossamer is, you probably haven't read Midsummer Night's Dream. Gossamer is the stuff that fairy wings are made out of. It's that silky, translucent stuff of the web that the spider's on. So that's one of the sprouts of the web, is made of gossamer, and that's what she runs along in order to find out what's in her web. So down one spoke of the web ran a stout ribbon of gossamer, on which she could hurry to investigate her prey. So this is the first paragraph of this piece. And what Eisley is doing here is it's setting up the narration. It's from I, who's this scientist or pseudoscientist who's looking for fossils, that comes across a spider. And then we narrow down our setting from the landscape of this faraway rainy day in the West to this web of a spider. Moving into the second paragraph, we have a movement of action here. Curious, I, again the scientist, takes the pencil from his pocket and touches a strand of the web. Immediately there's a response. the web was plucked by its menacing occupant. Who is the menacing occupant here? A lot of people might think that it's the spider because it's set up as menacing. But from the perspective, now we're in this world of the web and the spider, the menacing occupant is actually the pencil. It began to vibrate the web until it was a blur. Now, anything that had brushed claw or wing against that amazing stair would be thoroughly entrapped. And as the vibration slowed, I could see the owner, which is the spider, fingering her guidelines for signs of struggle. Why is she looking for struggle? Trapped moth's wing, food. The pencil point, however, was an intrusion into that universe for which no precedent existed, which means that the spider didn't recognize it. It was unfamiliar. There had nothing happened before that was similar to that. It wasn't a moth. It wasn't a mosquito or an ant or a beetle. The spider was circumscribed by spider ideas. Because no precedent existed, it knew not else what it could be. Its universe was only spider universe, and all outside of that universe is irrational. It's extraneous. It's at best raw material for spider. Raw material being something that you need to investigate and explore and maybe turn into a precedent for something else. But at that point, it's nothing that you can attach to something that you already know, so you can't make sense of it. And then we move into the last part of this little story. As I proceeded on my way, so the scientist is leaving our orbed spider and her web, along the gully, like a vast, impossible shadow. It's pretty ominous and tall. I realized that in the world of spider, I did not exist. Now, he's already set that up, right? Is that the lesson, though? Is all we're supposed to get from this is the fact that a spider only knows what spider knows, and that pencil it didn't know, and so he didn't exist to the spider? I think he's telling us to take that one step further, that we, and he makes this correlation when he talks about the wheel, the universe of the spider circumscribed by spider ideas. We too, as people, live in a universe that's circumscribed by our ideas. So that anything that might occur outside of that, we don't know what it is. We don't have any way of defining it. It's raw material for us. So for instance, when things occur that we can't define or put in our world or understand in our world, we don't know what to do with it. So either we ignore it, we call it things like, oh, here's a good word. You know the word coincidence? What is a coincidence, right? A coincidence sometimes is something that we don't quite understand. And this happens all the time, yeah? You're thinking of somebody that you hadn't thought of in a long time, and then all of a sudden you get a text from them or a phone call. Or you're thinking about something, and then a billboard, you drive by a billboard and that message is on the billboard. We call those things coincidence because there is no rationale in our way of thinking for why that occurs. But what if there was? What if the reason those things occur is just happens to be like the pencil in that web and it's outside of our understanding? So maybe that's the lesson. I think that is the lesson that Loren Eisley is communicating to us here. So we just did a close reading. We just deconstructed this piece. We just found out what the lesson was that's being communicated by this hidden teacher. So that's very simple, right? We didn't do anything special. We didn't have to even really look at a dictionary. You could have if you didn't know what any of those words meant. You would need to do that. But you don't need to have like a doctorate or even a bachelor's in English or science to figure out that passage. Yet what we figured out was not immediately apparent by the passage itself. We had to think about it. So moving on then to two other pieces. These are poems. Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley and On a Stupendous Leg of Granite by Horace Smith. And we'll get to that in just a minute.